We're going to go ahead, and this is the final presentation of the evening. But once we've done the presentation and the buzz, I'll ask the facilitators to identify someone at the table to provide some feedback to the group on the questions that James has. And you know, we talked about generating ideas. We talked about searching and finding those knowledge nuggets. And so how appropriate, the last one we're going to talk about is the retention. You know, as that knowledge walks out the door, how do you try to keep it? And James here is going to talk about what his experience in leading an effort with the USDA. And so we welcome that. James, please.
What I'd like to start out with is just talk a little bit about my background, which is organizational development and working to support our human capital investment programs. And one of the things I've been doing over the years is succession planning. And we really, in working with succession planning, leadership development, we saw that a number of our leaders were leaving, and there was quite a bit of concern with that. And so we wanted to make sure we moved over to that next step to make sure that we could retain their knowledge. I guess the best thing, though, to do is start with a little explanation of our agency and the program that I work with. And this is basically just our agenda. I'm kind of going through this really quick because I'm concerned about the time. But I talk a little bit about our agency, the drivers, what got this program going. As I said, we looked at succession planning and then moved over to knowledge management, the assessment process that we used, and then how we got started with this project and what we learned from this project and where we're moving to go into as far as next steps are concerned. My agency is the Food Safety Inspection Service, and I'm sure you're all aware of the Food Safety Inspection Service. They're the ones that make sure that your meat, your eggs, and your poultry are properly labeled, safe. So we have people all over the country in different plants making sure that that's happened. So you're all healthy now, so I guess we're doing a good job. Now, going on to where I work at specifically, what we found out, though, is that we wanted to make sure that not only the employees, the food inspectors and the plants had the proper information about what was going on, but we also wanted to make sure that we supported the people in the small plants, the owners of the very small plants that didn't have the resources that large plants have to hire food safety personnel, because the field is very, very rapid. It changes a lot because there's new scientific advancement. Along with those new scientific advancements, there's also new policy that develops. And as a regulatory agency, we have to hold, of course, the different plants accountable for that. So what we decided to do is make sure that we had a program line where our office that I work with that provides information to the plants, and also that same information is provided to our staff. And that just we were just upgraded to this area with additional resources just this past year. So that's one of the things that's very important that we realized that we needed to do. Now, given what's going on in the workforce, you've heard all about that, and again about the possible attrition of baby boomers and whatnot. We had a number of subject matter experts and leaders that are leaving the agency. And we wanted to make sure that we could capture some of that knowledge. And so that was one of the really driving forces behind that. As I mentioned to Doug and a number of others when I took training, what happened in our particular agency is some of the senior leaders came to us and said, you know what? We can't do now what we could just do 6 weeks ago because we have people that left. So, you know, we need some help. Help us. That was a crisis that people were looking at. So we wanted to make sure that we could support them and find some ways to capture that knowledge and move forward. So what we tried to do, and what we have done actually, is we reached out to get some support with some additional partners to help us implement the program. One of the partners is PricewaterhouseCoopers. Another is, of course, Doug's agency to help educate our workforce in order to do that. This is a particular graphic, gives you some information about the loss of productivity, the concerns that we have. And again, in some of your agencies, you might see that. Again, this looks like a relatively young group, so I don't see a lot of gray hair there. So maybe this is not a problem in your organization, but it is in mine, okay? So that's one of the things that we had to take a look at. What we decided to do is come up with a 5-step program. Okay, step one, okay, we had to scope out the project, decide what our goals and objectives were. We had some nice government terminology there, OPHS, OPPED. OPHS stands for Office for Public Health Science. That's the science branch of our organization. OPPED stands for Office of Public and Program and Education Development. So that's the policy side. So again, we have the science side and they impact on our policy side. So they come together with our regulation.